When you're thinking about the worst trades in NFL history, a couple come to mind. When the Saints traded up for Ricky Williams, when the Colts traded a first-round pick for Trent Richardson, and how can I forget, the Vikings get Herschel Walker for 8 picks and 5 players. But what if I were to tell you guys there is a worse trade than all of the above? The worst trade in NFL history is Deshaun Watson to the Cleveland Browns. Now, minus the sexual assault allegations, on the field, he's a form of his old self. My issue with it, the trade itself wasn't a really bad trade. The issue with it was they offered him $230 million, fully guaranteed. He was the first player ever to get a fully guaranteed contract. But we'll touch on that later in the video. To begin, let's start where Deshaun Watson started. Deshaun Derek Watson was born on September 14, 1995. In Gainesville, Georgia. Deshaun Watson attended Gainesville High School and started as a freshman. During Watson's time at high school, he set numerous state records and won a state championship when he was a junior. Watson had many offers, but on February 1st, 2012, he committed to the University of Clemson. As a true freshman, Deshaun Watson was the backup to Cole Stroud. Watson outperformed Stroud, so on September 21st, they made Watson the starting quarterback. In Watson's first start against North Carolina, let's just say he balled out. Watson set a school record with the Tigers in his very first game. He threw for 6 touchdowns and 435 yards in their victory against North Carolina, 50-35. On October 11, 2014, he broke a bone in his hand against Louisville. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the clip, so I had to leave it out of the video. But however, he returned the next week against Georgia Tech but suffered a LCL sprain in-game. He did not play against Georgia State but played against South Carolina. It was revealed Watson played with a torn ACL, got surgery before Clemson's bowl game, putting an end to his freshman season. In Watson's sophomore year, he led Clemson to a perfect 12-0 record and the number 1 team in the country. The Tigers faced North Carolina in the ACC championship. Watson threw for 289 yards and threw 3 touchdowns. Also, Watson ran for 131 yards and 2 touchdowns, led to the Tigers' win 45-37. That was Clemson's first ACC championship since 2011. Clemson was in the 2016 playoffs and would play number 4 Oklahoma Sooners in the Orange Bowl. Watson threw for 184 yards and a touchdown and ran for 145 yards and a touchdown. Watson led Clemson to the win, 37-17. They were going to the national championship. Clemson was set to face Alabama. Clemson lost 45-40, but Watson balled out, throwing for 405 yards and 4 touchdowns and ran for 73 yards and a touchdown. Watson was a finalist for the Heisman Trophy. He finished 3rd after Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey. He was named the 2015 ACC Player of the Year. In Watson's junior year, he wanted to show everyone that Clemson could win a national championship. They went 12-0, and Watson was again in the Heisman voting. However, he was second behind Lamar Jackson. But Watson had bigger dreams and showed that by beating Ohio State 31-0. I'm an Ohio State fan, and I remember this game, and let's just say we're not going to talk about it. But then the rematch versus Alabama, and Watson got the job done, beating Bama 35-31. Watson showed out, completing 36 out of 56 passes for 420 yards. November 8th, 2016, Deshaun Watson declared for the NFL draft. Watson was a projected first-round pick and ranked the best quarterback in the draft. But, however, he wasn't the first quarterback taken off the board, as Mitchell Trubisky went 2nd to the Chicago Bears. Then Patrick Mahomes went 10th to the Kansas City Chiefs. Then the Houston Texans traded up with the Cleveland Browns for the 12th pick, for the 25th pick, and Brock Osweiler, as the Browns listed as a salary dump. Watson made his debut on September 10th, 2017 against the Jacksonville Jaguars after quarterback Tom Savage was benched at halftime for poor performance. Watson threw his first touchdown to DeAndre Hopkins. He finished with 102 passing yards and an interception, and their loss 20-7 to Jacksonville. Watson made his first start on September 14th on his 22nd birthday against the Bengals. He finished with 125 passing yards, 67 rushing yards, including a 49-yard rushing touchdown, as the Texans won 13-9. However, on November 2nd, Watson tore his ACL during practice after a no-contact drill, prematurely ending his rookie season. Watson finished his rookie season with 1,609 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions, while rushing for 269 yards and 2 TDs rushing. In 2018, his sophomore season, he returned against the Patriots. Watson threw for 176 yards with a touchdown, also an interception, as the Texans lost 27-20. After suffering a broken rib and a partially collapsed lung, Watson took a 12-hour bus ride from Houston to Jacksonville rather than flying because of fears about effects of air pressure on his chest. Watson finished his sophomore season with a career high of 4,165 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions, 551 rushing yards, and 5 rushing touchdowns. Houston went 11-5 and won the AFC South title. In Watson's first playoff game, the Texans hosted the rival Indianapolis Colts in the wild card round. Watson completed 29 out of 49 passes for 235 yards as the Texans lost 21-7, ending his season. But Watson made the Pro Bowl, replacing Tom Brady. Also, Watson was ranked 50th in the 2018 Top 100 Players list. Watson needed to start the season hot after the playoff loss against the Indianapolis Colts, and that's exactly what he did statistical-wise. Week 1 versus Saints, Watson completed 20 out of 30 passes, 268 yards, 3 touchdowns, 40 rushing yards, however lost 28-30. Week 5, 2019, arguably Watson's best game. Watson threw for 426 yards and 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a perfect passer rating. Watson won AFC Offensive Player that week. Week 8 versus Raiders, in my personal opinion, Watson's second best play ever in his whole career. Now y'all are like, Josh, what's his best play? I'll show you guys in a minute. I'll just let the film play itself. Watson helped the Texans to a 10-6 record and an AFC South title. He finished the season with 3,852 passing yards, 26 passing touchdowns, 413 rushing yards, and 7 rushing touchdowns. In the wild card versus Buffalo, Watson led the Texans back from a 16-0 deficit to win 22-19 in overtime. Remember when I said I'll show you Watson's best play? Well, here you go. Watson finished the game with 247 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 55 rushing yards, plus a touchdown. Houston advanced to the divisional round versus the Kansas City Chiefs. The Texans started hot, leading 24-0, then ended up losing 51-31. Watson threw for 388 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 37 rushing to lose on a heartbreaker. Watson was ranked 20th on the NFL Top 100 list. On April 28, 2020, the Texans exercised the 5th-year option on Watson's contract. But however, on September 5th, Watson signed a 4-year, $177 million contract extension with $111 million guaranteed. In Week 1, Watson threw for 253 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, also 27 yards rushing, and a touchdown. Watson was fined $7,500 by the Texans for violating COVID protocols. Watson finished the season with a pair of 3 touchdown performances against the Bengals and Titans, but however lost both games. Watson finished the year with a league-leading 4,823 yards passing, 33 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. This, in my opinion, is Deshaun Watson's best year in the league, but the team was the worst, if that makes sense. Watson's season was the best in franchise history, but however, they only won 4 games. Following the 2020 season, Watson requested a trade by the Texans after being disgruntled by changes in the front office and coaching. The Texans were not willing to negotiate with any other teams for Watson, which led to a standoff with Watson until the emergence of sexual harassment allegations. Watson still practiced and was still in OTAs and training camp. Watson was still on the 53-man active roster to start the season. Texans manager said they would handle the Deshaun situation day by day. Despite not being suspended or placed on IR, he did not play a single game in 2021 for a personal matter. Now that we're caught up, on March 18, 2022, the worst trade in NFL history happened. On March 18, 2022, Deshaun Watson was traded to the Cleveland Browns for 3 first-round picks, a Browns third-round pick in 2023, and 2 fourth-round picks in 2022 and 2024. As well, the Cleveland Browns signed Deshaun Watson to a new contract, 5 years, $230 million, fully guaranteed, making it the largest contract in NFL history. Watson's opening presser with the Cleveland Browns, media would ask him if he regretted anything with his sexual harassment allegations. Watson maintained his innocence and denied everything and said he never disrespected anyone. He would never disrespect a woman. As a result, in the sexual harassment allegations, Watson was suspended for the first 6 games of the 2022 season. However, NFL owner Roger Goodell wanted a season-long suspension for Watson. On August 18th, the NFL and NFLPA agreed on an 11-game suspension and a $5 million fine for Watson. On November 28, 2022, Watson was reinstated from his suspension and put on the 53-man roster. In Week 13, Watson started against his former team, the Texans. In his first game in 700 days, Watson posted the worst passer ratings of his career at 53.4. Watson threw for 131 yards and 1 interception in the win against the Texans 27-14. Watson finished the 2022 season with a 3-3 record. Stats-wise, he threw 1,102 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. The Browns would finish 7-10 and last in the AFC North. Watson finished the year with a passer rating of 79.1, which was the lowest in his career. Now, here's my thoughts. To be brutally honest, Watson played terrible. He was rusty, he didn't know the playbook, and he didn't play in 2 years. So now he has a full offseason to train and to know the playbook, and hopefully he gets back to himself like how he was playing in Houston. Watson, with a full offseason or preseason, was ready to get back to his old self. However, let's just say in 2023, Watson looked pretty bad. However, he led the Cleveland Browns to a 5-1 record when he was starting. In 2023, Watson's best game was against the Tennessee Titans. Watson completed 27 out of 33 passes for 298 yards and 2 touchdowns, and the Cleveland Browns win 27-3. However, Watson's worst game in 2023 was against the Pittsburgh Steelers Week 2, when Watson completed 22 out of 40 passes for 235 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and 1 fumble for a touchdown, and the Cleveland Browns lost 22-26. On October 22nd, the Cleveland Browns were to play the Indianapolis Colts. Deshaun Watson got knocked out of the game after a huge hit and hit his head on the ground. Watson's stats before leaving the game were 1 for 5, no touchdowns, 1 interception. However, in Week 10 versus the Baltimore Ravens, Deshaun Watson had a displaced fracture in his right shoulder in the first half. However, he finished the game. Despite the injury in the first half, Watson balled out in the second half, throwing for 20 for 34, 213 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, leading the Cleveland Browns to the win 33-31 against their division rival. 3 days later, on November 15th, the Cleveland Browns announced Deshaun Watson would miss the rest of the season, needing surgery on his right throwing shoulder. Watson finished the year with 6 games played, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and 1,115 passing yards. Watson had his shoulder surgery on November 21st and is expected to be ready for the 2024 season. Now I'm going to explain the trade on both sides and what both teams got and my thoughts going forward for the Cleveland Browns and who won the trade in my personal opinion. Looking back at the trade, the Cleveland Browns received quarterback Deshaun Watson and they got a 2024 6th-round pick. The Houston Texans got guard Kenyon Green, Will Anderson, Damian Pierce, Tank Dell, John Mechie, and Christian Harris, and they have a first-round pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. Now, here's my explanation. The Browns made the trade thinking they were going to get a Super Bowl quarterback and go to the Super Bowl. Now, however, Deshaun Watson still has time to turn that around, but so far, the Houston Texans have won the trade, and here's why. The Houston Texans have pretty much almost hit on all of their picks, maybe except Kenyon Green, but he's still kind of developing, and he's still not bad. But for the Cleveland Browns, they traded their future, gave him the largest contract in NFL history, fully guaranteed contract, and it hasn't went their way. You could argue and say the Browns are in the playoffs, but is in spite of Deshaun Watson. The reason the Cleveland Browns are in the playoffs currently right now is because of their elite defense and Joe Flacco. The Texans did the trade on rebuilding, and let's just say they rebuilt pretty good, drafting quarterback C.J. Stroud with the 2nd overall pick, and now currently they are in the playoffs, going against the Cleveland Browns. As I'm recording this, they play tomorrow at 4:30. Personally, my prediction, I like C.J. Stroud, and I'm a Steelers fan, so probably you guys are going to think this is biased, but C.J. Stroud's been lighting it up, and I just like the Texans. Now my final thoughts. Hopefully Deshaun Watson can turn it around for the Cleveland Browns because the Browns desperately need wins, and for giving them all that money, they are expecting Super Bowls and they are expecting championships. But it's just crazy for the Browns technically still being contenders this year with their elite defense and Joe Flacco. Deshaun Watson, if he doesn't, get it together next year, then the Browns need to start looking at other options. Looking at his cap hit for next year, it is $64 million, and that's a lot of money. So Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. This is my first video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to be making more videos like this soon. I'm going to be doing like AB, Le'Veon. I'm going to be keep doing fall-offs of players. Hopefully you guys enjoyed like I just said. Please subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment. And this video is probably going to get copyright claimed. So if you guys could just drop a sub, that would mean the world to me. And yeah, that's the last thing I have to say. I just want to hear from you guys. Do you think Deshaun Watson can turn it around? Or do you think his career is just done? And y'all, hope you guys have a great, amazing day. Peace out, y'all.